Annie Cyrus. Annie is a longtime friend. She's been in our studio before. She's highly featured in my documentary Siege. If you go to siegethemovie.com, you can watch an hour for free. As I've been telling you and promoting that she would be on with us, she was born in Iran, and then from that, I'll let her tell you the rest of her story. Annie, welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us here on Lindell TV.
Always a pleasure.
Well, Annie, tell our audience a little bit about your personal story. Your father was high-ranking a religious leader in Iran, was he not?
Yes, my father was a sheikh, which is a step higher than an imam when it comes to a Shia Muslim sect of Islam, if you call it.
And what happened to you at a young age? I mean, would I be amiss to say you were sold as a child bride?
That is the technical term, but Brannon, I have actually learned lately, by lately I mean last few years, that the proper term is I was sold as a sex slave, because even though, yes, I was a child bride, yes, I was underage, but the purpose of this purchase was not so much of making a wife out of me, but rather, having a sex slave at home. So I have upgraded my title from former child bride to former child bride and a sex slave.
So you were sold, and that obviously, again, I don't know how much details you want to go into, because I know it's hard to talk about, but you were, I mean, again, we talk about these kids are being sold as child brides to this day. This is done because this is what the Prophet Muhammad did. He took his bride Aisha at 6 and consummated it at 9. So the one reason this continues is because the Prophet did it, and the Prophet is to be immolated, correct?
Yes, technically Muhammad had 11 wives, but his favorite was Aisha, which you're correct. She was 6 years old when he married him, but he consummated the marriage at age 9. And in Quran, it says Muhammad is the perfect example of a man, and you shall follow him. Part of what he did was having child bride and having wives, which to this day, under Islam, as a Muslim man, you can have child bride, and you can have 4 permanent wives at the same time and unlimited temporary wives. But there's another aspect. If you open the Quran, go to chapter 4, read verse 3. In Quran, Allah says, if you fall in love with your infant or orphan kid that you're a guardian of, based on her beauty or her wealth, if you're willing to pay the proper price for her, you can marry her and have her. So there are 2 aspects. Muhammad did it. Also, Quran says if you pay the proper price, being money-wise, then there is nothing against owning that child who is underage.
And so eventually you were sold by your own father, correct?
Yes, my father sold me mainly because I was too much of a trouble. Not to get too long or too much detail, but from the day I was declared an adult woman, which was when I was 9 years old, and I wasn't the only one, FYI, every single girl at age 9 in every single Islamic country, in every single Islamic society, is declared a full adult woman responsible for her own actions, facing consequences, because Muhammad consummated the marriage to Aisha at age 9. On that note, when I was declared a full adult woman at age 9, until I get to 14, I ended up being a full-on criminal because I did a lot of anti-Sharia acts, such as having nail polish, accidentally showing my hair, singing publicly loudly, going to a party when boys and girls were in the same room. Technically, I was a normal teenager, but under Sharia, I was an adult woman committing crime, so my father decided it's time to get rid of me, because as an Islamic leader, that was too much shame for him to handle. So he sold me for $50. Yes, my price, I'm so proud. He received American dollars from me, 2 20s and a 10, and a month of opium for his personal usage.
So $50 and a month of opium for his usage. And that was what you were value. That was your value.
That was my price, yes. He thought that is a fair price to be paid for me, who I was literally days away from my 14th birthday. So technically for a 14-year-old girl.
So obviously, we won't go into a lot of the details because I know it's too hard to talk about. But how long did you endure that before you were able to get away? And I know at one point you were beaten very, 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 very violently and great bodily harm. you thought you could go and
Yes.
seek protection from a judge. You went to a judge, right, in Iran thinking you could get permission. They would clearly see that, hey, it's not right to beat up a woman, much less take her as a sex slave. And you thought you could appeal to this judge, right?
Yes. Well, technically, I took a lot of beating from him, and it was less than a year and a half of the whole scenario until I escaped. But at one point, I figured if I show up with fresh wounds and still blood on my face, the judge is going to feel bad for me and give me a divorce. But what I heard from the judge was, if you would listen to him, he wouldn't have to beat you. So go back home and make him happy so he won't beat you. That was my answer from the judge.
Wow. So eventually you were able to escape, correct?
Yes, but before we get to my escape, you know me, Brannon, I like to provide evidence for what has happened so nobody thinks this judge was just some crazy, sick-minded person. Well, he was, but he was following orders. Again, in Quran, on chapter 4, verse 34, it does say, if you think your wife is going to disobey you, she doesn't have to do it yet. But if you think she might, you warn her first, then you separate your bed, then you beat her until she comes back to obeying you. So this judge was literally reading the judgment off of Quran to me.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you eventually escape. Again, I don't know how much detail you want to give because, again, I think you need to protect some family members. How did you finally get out of Iran?
Actually, on that note, sadly, the only person who protected me and saved me has passed away, so I don't have to protect her. I'd rather give her credit for her bravery. My grandmother, rest in peace, she hired the smugglers to snatch me and smuggle me out of Iran into Turkey. And then I went to United Nations. Now, back in the time, this is not, 22 years ago, 21 years ago, United Nations was still a genuine United Nation. So I walked in there, I seeked asylum. There were complications because I was underage with no guardian until they figure out how I can become a solo asylum seeker on my own and get through all the process and do everything properly. Took about 3 years until I finally made my way to America with I-94 visa, which is legal paperwork. I didn't jump over borders. I could, but I didn't. And then I came to America when I was 18 in 2002. Oops, I just gave away my age, Brannon.
Okay, so you did not jump the border. You came legally. Now, when you got here, could you speak the language?
Oh, no. No, okay, to be fair, I could say hello.
You could,
and I knew dollar.
You could say hello.
And I knew Chicago.
You could say hello, and what was the other one you could say?
Dollar and Chicago, because that's where I was going. So they told me I'm going to Chicago, so I knew how to say Chicago.
And you ended up, do I remember correctly, you worked at a fast food restaurant?
Yes, my very first proud job I ever had in America was a dishwasher at McDonald's in Milwaukee, Illinois. The city name was Willing, Illinois.
And so you worked your way up. You learned to speak English. You now, you work with our next guest, Jamie Glazoff. You work with him in the Glazoff game, correct? Tell our audience about that.
Yes, I am the producer of the Glazoff Gang, hosted by Dr. Jamie Glazoff. We started this project back in 2011, proudly been running for 10 years, where we basically exposed the unholy alliance between the left and Islam, or as you know it, red-green axis nowadays. We have both dedicated our lives to doing this because we both believe, just like you, Brannon, our freedom and liberty depends on exposing the evil of unholy alliance.
Absolutely.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and I'm coming to you with the most important commercial that I've ever done. All of you know what MyPillow and myself have gone through in the last 5 months in my efforts to bring the truth forward. Well, it's all come down to this. I'm having a cyber symposium on August 10th, 11th, and 12th. This historical event will be live streamed 72 hours straight on my new platform, frankspeech.com. You can help by getting everybody you know to go to frankspeech.com now. To help support this Cyber Symposium event, I am offering some of the best prices ever on my pillow products, but they're only offered at frankspeech.com. Go to frankspeech.com now and use the promo code on your screen or call the 1-800 number below to receive these exclusive MyPillow offers. Thank you and God bless.
Annie, there's a very couple stirring parts in that documentary when you're sitting at this desk telling your story. And one of them is that you escaped Iran as a, child bride, or, you've used the phrase tonight, sex slave. Is that really the more appropriate phrase that you would prefer to have used?
I call it a former child bride and a sex slave. I think they both need to be mentioned.
Okay.
One thing I have come to realize, Brannon, is when you say child bride in Western countries, especially America, we have such beautiful culture in America, regardless of every evil that's going on since November of 2020. But in general, we have such beautiful culture that when you use the word child bride, it doesn't click. They don't understand what you face as a child bride. They kind of feel like, oh, you're this little girl who's cooking and cleaning and doing his dishes. No, you're a full-on wife. You cook, you clean, you stay home, and when he feels like it, he will rape you. So that's why I made it a full sentence of former child bride and a sex slave. So
in that process of telling your story in our documentary Siege, because we have the subtitle of that is the Marxist and Islamic strategy to bring down America, and the red-green axis, as you said, the red being Marxism, the green being the green represented by the jihadi flag of these Islamic nations. You say in that documentary what concerns you is that you escaped Iran, and you, of course, have a lot of guilt because you were able to get out, but there are a lot of young girls and little girls and minor girls that are still left behind, and you have a lot of guilt. I guess it's survivor's guilt to one degree, and yet you say you even faced a bigger nightmare, and that is you came to America, and now you see happening in America what you escaped. And one of the things we've talked about is the Sharia patrols. We're now seeing in New York and other places Sharia patrols. They look just like the squad cars of the NYPD, but they're Sharia patrols. Well, if you have Sharia, that means you're implementing the laws of Islam, which includes child brides. And this is all being repeated, is it not? And we got genital mutilation going on, female genital mutilation. All of this is coming to America. You thought you escaped that, and here it is, right?
Absolutely. It is here. It's at the beginning, I understood it's here. But in the last couple of years, I have realized it's not just here. It has started to have roots here. In government, we have Sharia-obeying, Sharia-loving, practicing Muslims involved with making laws in our country, just in case somebody's missing the point. Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Keith Allison, right on top of the list. These three names have come out and supported jihad. They have tried their best to bail out those who were trying to join ISIS. They have come out and called our only ally in Middle East, Israel, a terrorist for defending themselves against jihadis. And these people have their hands right in the middle of what laws our country, America, does have or doesn't have. Then you have, on a lower level, you have on every district of the schools, the Muslims who are trying to push for halal food only menus, for Ramadan traditions, for Bible and crosses to be removed from the schools, for everybody to wear a hijab once a year because hijab is just that wonderful oppression of a woman. And then you have Sharia police in certain cities that are literally overruling our constitutional rights and laws by telling Muslim men and women how to behave. And then recently, you have orchestrated rallies that are pro-Palestinians attacking Jews on the streets of America, and our officers have a stand-down order. Yes, that's what we're facing.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and I'm coming to you with the most important commercial that I've ever done. All of you know what my pillow and myself have gone through in the last 5 months in my efforts to bring the truth forward. Well, it's all come down to this. I'm having a cyber symposium on August 10th, 11th, and 12th. This historical event will be live streamed 72 hours straight on my new platform, frankspeech.com. You can help by getting everybody you know to go to frankspeech.com now. To help support this cyber symposium event, I am offering some of the best prices ever on my pillow products, but they're only offered at frankspeech.com. Go to frankspeech.com now and use the promo code on your screen or call the 1-800 number below to receive these exclusive My Pillow offers. Thank you and God bless.
Annie, do you have a website you want to promote before we keep our interview going here?
I want to support Anni Cyrus by herself, just by herself. I actually do art, from resin art to paintings and all sort of arts. I have an Etsy channel. You can look me up, and if you like the art, you can purchase it, and that way I can continue supporting my own work. All you got to look up is LUTF Studio. That's where you can financially support me and receive some of my arts.
Well, you know, the reason why it's so important that you keep doing this, Annie, is because, and a workman is worthy of their hire, you know, you got to make a living. And so if, you know, I'm glad you're finding ways to do that so you can keep putting out this work, because you have credibility to speak about these things because you're firsthand witness. I mean, you experienced them yourself. You know this history. And sadly, the people that do know what's happening, a lot of people don't want to speak up because it comes with a price. You get threatened. You could be killed. And, you know, you and I have a mutual friend who is very, very aware of all this, was trying to warn people as a former DHS officer, wrote a best-selling book called See Something, Say Nothing, appeared on Sean Hannity's show 14 times. Megyn Kelly, I think, broke his story on Fox News. He used to sit at this desk. We produced his TV show. And the night he was murdered, and I think he was murdered, you were one of the very first people I called. And yet you and I both know that Phil Haney, as a former DHS officer, was trying to warn America about this Islamic invasion. And yet here we are almost a year and a half later, coming up on a year and a half later, and apparently the FBI can't figure out who did it. I'm not sure they really care. Maybe, or maybe they actually know. You want to comment on the death of Phil Haney?
I would, and I will agree with you. I don't think he was murdered. I know for a fact he was murdered. The reason I know for a fact is to this day, no information has been released. They have the evidence that proves he was murdered. And I'm pretty sure they ended at some point, buried it as deep as they could so nobody can continue and follow the money to find out who did it. Because we both know if that ever comes out, there's a lot of cleaning up to do. And they don't want to face that.
And I don't want to put you at risk by having you say more than you should, but what do you think Phil was onto?
Well, I appreciate you not wanting to put me in danger, but let me ask, before I answer that question, let me just say something to all of your audience, mainly. I'm okay by putting my neck out there. I am, because it's my life mission to make sure they never get to put that job on me again, nor ever a man or a male guardian will get to tell me what to eat, where to go, how to talk, who to talk to. That's my life mission. So if that means paying the price, which is my life with it, that's okay. But I want you to know that 2 months ago, I received a call from FBI to inform me that IRGC, which stands for Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, which is basically the face behind Hamas and Muslim Brotherhood and Hezbollah, they have all of my information. They have my address, my hotspots to go, all of my friends' information. They have been inside my devices for more than 2 months. And when I said, what are we doing about it? They said, sadly, there isn't anything we can do. You need to protect your own self. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on our own. We, the people of America, need to protect ourselves one way or another. On that note, That's where Phil Haney was going.
Let me just interrupt you real quick. Let me just interrupt you real quick, because as hard as I am on the FBI, when they do something right, I want to commend them. And so as much as I disagree with the FBI, and I know there are some bad people at the top and probably some good guys at the lower level. So like I said, when they do good, I want to acknowledge it. And so I will say, thank you, FBI, for alerting Annie. I appreciate that. I think we all appreciate that. And I want to acknowledge the good FBI agents and whoever went out of their way to acknowledge her. So again, I've been a pretty harsh critic of the FBI over the last few years. I went from being one of the biggest supporters of the FBI, because I grew up going to the FBI as a kid and going through the public tours and had a great respect for the FBI, and grew up with men in my church who were in the FBI. And even one of my friends in the last few years who's just days away, months away, weeks away from retiring from the FBI. But I went from respecting the agency to not so much. And I think one reason we know why is people like Terry Turchi, the former assistant deputy director of the counter-terrorism division of the FBI, who's sat at this desk and filmed 3-4 one-hour shows with me, will tell us what has happened to the agency. That he was working at the 7th floor, top level in. But hey, when they do the right job and the right thing, I want to recommend it. And so, Annie, I'm thankful to hear they at least reached out to you, because they could have just as well not told you anything. So that's good to hear. So anyway, pick it up from there.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I would agree with you. There are many good agents who would love to do something, but their hands are tied behind their back. They can, because orders come from higher level. And that's where Phil Haney was about to expose every single corrupt person within the corrupt department of our government. Phil Haney was to come out and tell everybody who needs to be removed and why, with proof and evidence. And that's why they had to shut him down permanently.
Let's talk about Sharia more coming to America. You mentioned Ilhan Omar. Haven't they changed the 100 and some odd rule when it comes to wearing hats or head covering on the floor of the house? I mean, 100 and some odd rule they've changed for her to wear her hijab, right?
Oh, of course, of course. You weren't supposed to wear any religious costume to the floor of Congress. But when Ilhan Omar was elected, or we don't even know if she was elected or not. I'm sorry, I'm questioning all elections now. But that's beside the point.
Welcome to Lindell TV. You'll fit in just well, real well here.
I know. I just had to get that out of my chest. But let's say when she was elected, they lifted that ban and say, oh, no, that's all right. She is a Muslim and she has to wear the hijab and she is more than welcome to walk in. However, please note, only she can wear her religious symbol of hijab. And still, Christians and Jews cannot. Please tell me we do not have Islamic supremacy in this country again?
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and I'm coming to you with the most important commercial that I've ever done. All of you know what MyPillow and myself have gone through in the last 5 months in my efforts to bring the truth forward. Well, it's all come down to this. I'm having a cyber symposium on August 10th, 11th, and 12th. This historical event will be live streamed 72 hours straight on my new platform, frankspeech.com. You can help by getting everybody you know to go to frankspeech.com now. To help support this cyber symposium event, I am offering some of the best prices ever on MyPillow products, but they're only offered at frankspeech.com. Go to frankspeech.com now and use the promo code on your screen or call the 1-800 number below to receive these exclusive MyPillow offers. Thank you and God bless.
So what you're saying is we already are surrendering to Islamic law, or what is known as Sharia.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, we do. I mean, we have Ilhan Omar wearing the hijab, and specifically, exclusively, a 108 years ban is lifted for her only. And then, as I said, we have the month of Ramadan, that even our White House goes as far as having iftar nights during month of Ramadan, which many of us ex-Muslims have a scream on top of our lungs that month of Ramadan in Sharia is about the bloodiest month. In Ramadan, as a Muslim, if you commit jihad, Your reward is 7 times higher than any other month of Quranic or Arabic calendar. But we reward them and we celebrate with them. And when it comes to TSA, and I want to pass through TSA, if I have a cross-bullet necklace pendant on, they pull me over and have me prove this is just a pendant. But if I was a Muslim woman, God forbid, wearing a burqa and a niqab, oh, come on in, lady. We're just going to believe the picture on your ID matches whatever is under your niqab. These are all us bending over backward to not hurt their feelings or not to be Islamophobes.
So we know that Judge Janine tried to speak truth a couple years ago on Fox News about the hijab. Didn't go so well. I think she got suspended for a few days. Did she not?
Yes, she did get suspended. And not just that, unfortunately, after that suspension, she had to tone it down and kind of sort of not bring that up again.
So was she right when she was quoting from the Quran about the hijab and why one is to wear the hijab? I mean, you know it. You can cite it. I'll let you do that. But something about the hijab, wearing the hijab, the head covering, and casting your eyes downward. That's what she was saying. That you better do this, or this is why Ilhan Omar wears it. I don't know if she went into the detail, but you've explained that if they don't wear the hijab and cast their eyes downward, and then we have women, particularly in Great Britain, they will get in the cab and they don't have the hijab on, and they look the Muslim driver, the Islamic driver, in the face. What are they saying by not wearing the hijab and looking him right in the eye? What are they saying to him?
Well, first, yes, Judge Janine was completely accurate on citing that verse of Quran. And yes, it is accurate. In Quran, it says there are 2 verses related to hijab. One of them explains what a proper hijab is, which is not even what Ilhan Omar does, nor is it what Linda Sarsour does. The proper hijab described in Quran as you wear a loose garment showing absolutely no curve from your wrist all the way to tip of your toes, and you wear your headscarf wrapped around your hair down to your chest. Your neck isn't allowed to be shown on the proper hijab. But the second verse says, "O Muhammad, tell the believing women and your wives to wear their proper hijab and keep their eyes down, and don't let a man hear their heels hitting the floor. That is better for them not to be assaulted." That is the proper verse. So, if you're looking at a man, if you're not wearing your hijab, if your proper hijab, and if you're walking harsh enough for your heel to be heard, you're asking to be assaulted.
And by assault,
and that's why in Europe, women, especially non-Muslim women, are being raped and assaulted because it is approved and signed off by Allah in Quran.
And when I've mentioned that on the radio, I've gotten a couple liberals that will email me that I'm, lying and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, are you kidding me? You go to frontpagemag.com. Jimmy Glazoff will be with us here in just a few minutes. You go to frontpagemag.com, you'll find scores of articles and pictures, and even an article about a judge that told the women over there in Great Britain, stop getting in the car with these Middle Eastern men because the chances of your getting raped are there because you're not wearing the hijab, you look them in the eye, and they think that that's an invitation because the number of women getting raped in these cabs was quite high. I mean, these are overwhelmingly documented stories. I have them in a whole file. You know that to be true.
Oh, absolutely. And let's not mention, here are other things we need to mention. Normally, there was a time about a few years ago where I had these little business cards, yes, on that knee. In the front of it had a type that says, "Thanks for making me a target," and on the back had that verse of the Quran. If I saw a Muslim woman wearing the hijab, I would hand it to them. Because with them wearing the hijab, me not wearing the hijab, they are pointing out who is to be targeted for rape. Those who are not wearing the hijab, those who are not Muslims or not proper Muslims. Also, if you read the Sirah, Life of Muhammad, the reason the whole hijab thing is started was because one night accidentally one of Muhammad's soldiers attacked and sexually assaulted one of Muhammad's temporary wives. Next morning, when it was discovered, they came to, "Oh, what do we do? What do we do? Oh, we're going to cover the Muslim women. That is free for Muslim men to attack those who are not wearing the hijab." It is under Sharia law, allows for Muslim men to sexually assault or rape non-Muslim women. And I guess we just need to give them more hugs and better jobs and maybe a couple of kisses.
Wow. So Sharia is coming to America. You've been warning about it. You're in our documentary. We know it to be true. And, you're working with Jamie Glozoff, our next guest, for a few minutes. And then Mike Lindell will be in the studio with breaking news, coming into the studio in person, folks. But, folks, I really hope you'll go and visit her website. Give your website again, Annie.
Well, as I said, it's on Etsy.com. My user ID that you can look for is LUTF, the studio. LUTF, the studio on Etsy.com. By the way, Brannon, I love you to pieces. I'm so grateful for everything you do. I can't tell you how excited I am to get to watch you every night on Lindell TV. But one little correction. Sharia isn't coming here, love. Sharia is here.
It is here. And you know what, Annie? I know maybe when the time is right, but we've offered you your own TV show, that we will produce your own 30-minute TV show. Anytime you want to come to Memphis and produce it, we will roll out your show because we know your message is important. I know you got a lot going on, but the invitation stands for you to come here and we will produce your 30-minute show for you. You know that, right?
I know, and I am 2 months away from being ready to show up and kick it off.
All right. We need to do that because we need to get your voice to more and more people. You're welcome back here anytime. Please make sure that you call me if there's any breaking news. Be safe, and thank you for joining us tonight, Annie.
Will do, and you stay safe and keep up the great work, please.
Thank you. All right, now Annie produces. By the way, Annie, you're the executive producer of the Glozoff Gang, right?
I am the producer of the Glozoff Gang.
Okay.
And also the host. Sometimes I do my own show there.
And Jamie will be with us next hour. So this is kind of a team that Jamie and Annie are a team in a lot of regards. So just make sure we got that all right. So she's the producer of this Jamie Glozoff Gang. So we're going to have Jamie on in just 1 minute. Thank you, Annie.
My pleasure.